many of us have had at least 2 cups of coffee already? About 50%, all right, very good. Well, again, welcome to Chat GPT for AV professionals. How many of us were in that previous session? Wasn't that great? I mean, very insightful, right? Now, for this session, first of all, my name is Juan Cuellarm. A couple of little details about me to get started. So I am the senior instructor at Office Pro. We do AV and IT training. I've been with the company for this June, at the beginning of June, it was 21 years now. So I've been around for a little bit. I don't know if any of you attended the previous session on Chat GPT. That was on Tuesday. So that was my boss, Aaron Nugler. I have been training for 17 years. I've been a Microsoft certified trainer for 14 years. And so my boss, Aaron Nugler, he put in a fun fact about him. He said, I'm a father of 2 kids. Well, I don't have kids, but I do have a Nino. That's my little kid version of a kid. He's an Italian Greyhound, and he might as well be a kid, right? All right. Now, just to start off with something a little fun. This is a post I posted, just being facetious, on Facebook back in 2019, before Chat GPT really became mainstream. AI for president. Hope to be long gone before Terminator meets the Matrix, and then they'll have little baby AIs who will make all of us their minions. How many of us have felt like this, especially the last couple of years? Well, let me tell you this. The good news is we're not really there yet. Maybe in the future. Did any of you go to the Sphere event? Did you guys meet Aura, the robots? So you know how you can ask the questions? I asked it. When are you guys going to take over? So right now, we're working with what's called a narrow AI. But have any of you heard of AGI? So AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence, right? So right now, the narrow AIs are designed for specific tasks, such as all the examples that they were talking about in that previous session: video generation, signage, music. And today we're going to be talking about chat, right? But general AI, or artificial general AI, has the ability, or will have the ability, to understand, learn, and apply knowledge across a broad spectrum of capabilities, more so like a human. So that's when we probably need to start thinking about this a little more seriously, right? But again, the good news is we're not quite there yet. All right. Now, I'm a professional trainer. This is what I've been doing for 17 years. And I love this concept. How many of you have heard of learn, unlearn, and relearn? A couple of us. So this is a quote from Alvin Toffler. And this talks about being able to learn concepts and build on them, but then have the ability to unlearn and discard out-of-date processes, concepts, but then take on the knowledge that you already had and then build on top of that to improve yourself. So I heard the Industrial Revolution threatened blue-collar jobs. The AI revolution is threatening white-collar jobs. But the quote from Alvin says, the illiterates of the future is not those who cannot read and write. It's those who don't have the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So what I'm getting to is, now that all of this technology is coming out, it's up to us to stay ahead of the curve and use it to our advantage and not become obsolete or outdated ourselves, right? So, just a little intro to today's session. Now, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to start off by talking about, one second. First of all, let's understand exactly what is Chat GPT. What is it? What does it do for us? How can we leverage it? And more importantly, what is it not? But now that we want to start learning about how to leverage it at work, there are certain things that we need to take into consideration. Policies, compliance, ethical considerations. So we're going to talk about some of those concepts as well. Then we'll talk about if you have not gotten started with Chat GPT, how do you get started? What's the barrier of entry? All right, so we'll take you through that process, very easy. And then we'll jump into a couple of examples on how we can start leveraging this in the AV industry. All right? So, with that being said, I will say that towards the end, we'll open up for Q&A, so hold on to your questions, and then later on, we'll throw that little cube at you if you have any questions. And hopefully, we'll have time to give you guys a chance to give me some prompts that you may want to try out in Chat GPT, and we can see that live. All right? All right. So first of all, understanding Chat GPT. What exactly is it? What is Chat GPT? Well, as you can see here, it says that it is an artificial intelligence chatbot developed by OpenAI. Now, we know this already, but it's important to really think through every single word and to get a good understanding of what exactly it is and what is it not. First of all, what does GPT stand for? It stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Now, when it says chat, you know what chat is, right? Everybody got Teams? Right? Chatting? Well, this is a generative pre-trained transformer that you can chat with. Now, it uses deep learning techniques to understand and generate human-like text-based responses based off of your inputs. Those are what we call prompts. Okay? Now, that's what it is. Now, let's talk about some of the key features. So, for ChatGPT specifically, it is trained on internet data. Okay? It is trained on internet data. So, what does this mean? Well, it has access to anything that's out there in the public domain, but what it also means is it does not have access to your content, your documents, and your personal information, unless you choose to share that with ChatGPT. Okay? Now, later on, we're going to talk about the different versions or models of ChatGPT and some of the limitations on what the limitations of the data that is trained on. But that's the first feature. The second feature is that it has natural language processing. And this essentially means that it is designed to understand and process human-like language. The good news is you can talk to it just like a regular human. You can use natural language. You don't have to think about too hard about, do I need to use specific technical words? Now, there are best practices on how to properly create effective prompts, and we'll talk about that. But you can talk to it like a human, okay? Now, the third thing is that it generates text. That's what the chat feed refers to. So it's going to generate text, coherent text, relevant text based off of the prompts that you provided. Okay? Now, what are some of the applications for ChatGPT? One thing I'll say is how you use it versus how I use it versus how my colleagues use it, it's going to be very different. But it's good to have some ideas. So, for example, this is great for answering questions. You can have it provide explanations. You can have it provide drafts. And if you remember one word about ChatGPT in the workplace is drafts. We'll talk about this in more details in a bit. But you can have it write essays, articles, content. You can have it write content. You can have it even assist with coding. So personally, I'm an end user productivity, end user adoption type of instructor. I'm not a programmer, I'm not IT, but I do dabble a little bit here and there. I cannot tell you how useful this code assistant has come in. From something as simple as creating an Excel formula to generating web programming, JavaScript, HTML, and the list goes on and on. It has multiple different programming languages that I can assist with. All right? Now, in my world, how I use ChatGPT is when I'm working on a specific learning program for a client, I take all the bullet points of what they want, but then I need to create an outline, a description, and all of that. I plug all that in, and I tell it, hey, give me a description, and it'll pop it up in a matter of seconds versus me having to sit there and think through and write it. Now, again, that's a draft. Now, our boss, he loves his dad jokes. Every Monday, all staff meeting, he starts with his dad joke. And guess where he's starting to get them? ChatGPT. Now, a really cool story that he didn't share himself, but I think it's pretty cool, is he also used it. So he has a son who just lost 2 teeth in one day, his first 2 teeth in one day. What do? You got to call on the tooth fairy, right? He told Chat GPT his son's name, the details about it, that he lost 2 teeth, and he said, write me a letter from the tooth fairy to my son. And it was able to create this really nice, very cute letter, printed it out, handed it together with all the money, right? It was really cool. So again, the point is there are endless use cases. We're going to talk about some use cases that you should probably also avoid or just be wary of, but we'll get to that in just a minute. All right? Now, let's talk about some of the limitations of ChatGPT, because these are important to recognize. While it is powerful and great, and this is why it has become a household name, it does have certain limitations. So first of all, it does have the ability of generating incorrect information, okay? And this is why I said the one word you want to remember, especially in the workplace, is draft. Draft. So we're going to talk about this in a bit. It is sensitive based off of the inputs that you provided. So we're going to talk about, again, how to properly provide the prompts, how to properly phrase things to get the best response out of it. It does lack understanding beyond the data that it is trained on, okay? Now, which version of ChatGPT you're using will vary based off of the data is trained on will vary based off of what version of ChatGPT you'll be using. And we'll talk about the different versions. Now, this last one is kind of interesting because, again, we're at the precipice. These are just infant AIs, but already we're starting to see some anomalies, if you will. So, for example, this last one, it has the ability to produce plausible sounding or nonsensical answers. I don't know if any of you have heard of AI hallucinations. Now, what does that mean? That means that you provided a prompt. What is the task? What is ChatGPT designed to do? It's designed to take your data, understand it, and then provide a response. Now, it's going to do that to the best of its ability. If it has the data in its trained knowledge to pull from, it's going to do that. But if it doesn't quite find the exact data that it needs, it's going to provide you still a response that may be based off of none of that data. That's what we call hallucinations. So in other words, it can make up stuff. So this is why, again, what's the number one word? Drafts, all right? Okay, now, let's see here. One moment. All right, so those are the basics of ChatGPT. Let's talk about some of the considerations that you want to take when using it in the workplace. First and foremost, compliance. So, we all work in various industries. Of course, the AV industry, we're all here today, but there are a lot of different things that you want to take into consideration. First of all, what user policies do your organizations have? Do they have any policies specific to AI? We all need to make sure that now that we're starting to use this, we adhere to them. We find out about it. We do a lot of work in the government space. We're in the DC area, our headquarters, and we do a lot of work in the government space. We have all these different agencies and clients reaching out, and they want to get ahead of the curve, and they want to train their users on how they can start using AI, ChatGPT in the workplace. And we're like, all right, what are your policies? Do we have a policy? You might want to go check. I can go and train you on it, but what does your organization say about the use of that in the workplace? I can't tell you how many times they come back and say, we're going to have to hold off on that, we're going to have to cancel, we'll need to circle back because their IT doesn't have policies yet, or they're not ready to support that type of work. So you want to make sure that you're not stepping on any toes, you're not breaking any rules when you start using these tools in the workplace. Now, legal compliance. We need to ensure that we are following all relevant laws, local, national, international laws, and regulations, especially if you work in regulated industries. We need to make sure that we are following data privacy regulations. So we need to be compliant with all data privacy laws, GDPR, right? CCPA, HIPAA. We need to make sure that we are managing and protecting all personal data effectively. Confidentiality. Any sensitive company information, client information, you need to make sure that when you're using these AI systems, that you're not plugging in any sensitive or confidential information. Now, when they were talking about content generation, video, audio, images, this is a big one. And I have heard of different cases where people have infringed on copyright laws, intellectual property. So here's the thing, if you tell Chat GPT to generate something for you, it's gonna do that. It's up to you to verify whether that infringes in any intellectual property laws, any copyrights, trademarks, and so on and so forth, right? Record keeping. If you are in an industry that requires audit trails to remain compliant, if you're using Chat GPT, you want to make sure you keep record of what content was generated, how you're using it, because when that audit comes through, it's going to be on you to provide that information. Now, again, I mentioned a lot of government agencies, a lot of companies are coming to us because they want to get ahead of the curve. We want to make sure that all of these are followed, that we stay compliant. So the last thing is employee training. As you guys start using it in your companies, in your industry, for your different projects, it is best practice to make sure that all of your users understand what it is, how to use it, how not to use it, how they should be used, and how they should not be used. All right? All right, now, those are the compliance considerations. Let's talk about some of the ethical considerations. Now, first of all, respectful requests. Now, this does not mean be respectful to the AI. Yes, right? You want to be respectful because eventually they'll be our overlords and you want to be on their side, right? On their good graces. But what does this really mean? We should not be using AI to generate harmful, offensive, or inappropriate content. I mean, kind of goes without saying, right? But still, sometimes you got to say these things. Privacy of others. You should not be using any personal information or sharing personal information about others without their consent, without their knowledge. Critical thinking. So, what was the number one word? Drafts. When it generates a response to you, don't just copy, paste it, and send it off to the printing press. I've seen where that's happened, and that's come back to bite them in the you-know-where. It is up to us to review it, verify, personalize it, make it your own. The way I like to think of this is it gives you a running start, but it is not the finish line. So use critical thinking when using AI-generated content, right? Avoid harm. What does this mean? You should not be using AI or Chat GPT to provide content that can harm individuals, groups, or societies, produce hate speech, misinformation, or abusive content. Simple enough, right? Nobody's doing that here anyways, right? Thank you. Fairness. So, one of the things that we've seen in different models, different AIs, is that sometimes the responses can be biased. Keep in mind, these AIs are trained off of internet data. It's going to use that data. Where does that internet data come from? Us. We got biases. So sometimes those responses are biased. So you got to make sure that whatever content you're using generated by AI is fair. You want to be transparent. You want to be transparent anytime you are using AI-generated content, in particular in professions, in the professional or the public spheres. Educational purposes. So use AI for constructive learning processes, but we should not be using it to exploit its capabilities for unethical or malicious activities. And informed consent. What this means is, if you are collaborating with others, you want to make sure that they're aware anytime that you're using content generated by AI. Because now when you're collaborating, that content doesn't only represent you, it represents the overall team. And if they're not aware, it might go a certain way. So you want to make sure that everybody affected by the use of AI-generated content is aware of it. All right? Now, safe and appropriate questions. So what are some of the safe and appropriate uses of AI? So for example, let's start with some unsafe and inappropriate prompts, if you will. Anything that is personal or sensitive information. We talked about this, we mentioned it a couple times. We should not be providing any type of personal or sensitive information. Any type of illegal activity, anything that is harmful or dangerous actions, any disinformation or manipulation, or again, biases or discriminations. These are things we need to avoid and actually keep an eye out, because sometimes even without the intent, we might get some of these, and it's up to us, again, critical thinking, take those drafts and work them. Now, some safe and appropriate use cases. Have it explain difficult concepts. Okay, have it explain difficult concepts. Have it recommend literary pieces. Have it be a creative inspiration. Environmental insights. Or, again, for fun stuff like the dad jokes, right? You can have it create jokes, provide you with recipes, draft letters, like from the Tooth Fairy, right? And of course, there are endless other options. So, again, there are endless ways that you can use it, but there are certain ways that you should try to avoid using these type of AI services. All right. Now, so personal, sensitive, and confidential information. First of all, we need to understand the nature of Chat GPT. It is really easy to start believing that there's a human behind on the other end. A lot of people start it starts gaining a lot of people's trust. You gotta remember, this is just a machine, right? It does not have emotions, it does not have conscience. Now, my notes say that it doesn't have memory, but that's actually something that's changed in some of their latest updates. Now ChatGPT does have memories, and the purpose of that is so that as you use it more and more, and it learns more about you, and it can give you more relevant information the more you use it. But the point is, this is not a human, it is a machine, and we need to keep that in the back of our minds anytime we're using this type of technology. Now, when we talk about personal or sensitive information, what does that mean? Anybody heard of PII? Personal identifiable information, right? Anything that can identify a specific individual. A name, an address, phone number, social security numbers, any personal health information. All of that is information we should not be feeding into these systems. Sensitive information, things like passwords, financial details, confidential business information, those are certain details that you want to make sure that you're not sharing, right? Now, it is all right to simulate, but don't share all the exact details. So for example, anybody heard of WebMD? Right? That became everybody's primary health physician, right? A lot of people are using ChatGPT to kind of figure out what's going on, which is okay to a certain point. But as you provided the information, you should provide the prompts, try to be hypothetical, right? Provide a general statement. Don't give it any specific details about your situation. You can still get that feedback, you can still get some information, but again, you want to be careful of the information you're feeding it. When you get the prompts, double check it. Again, critical thinking, take that first draft, and then double check to make sure that it is proper. And when you're creating the prompts, before you hit that submit button, double check it, make sure that you're not oversharing any information that you don't intend to. Also understand how these platforms are using your data. Understand the terms of use and how these systems are going to be using the information that you provided. You know that when you sign your life away every time you sign up for something, the thing that you just check and don't read. You might want to read that from time to time. I think it's worth it a while. Now, educational and professional contents, Again, you want to try to avoid using any sensitive client data or proprietary information, because again, keep in mind these are in the public realm, and while Chat GPT does have security measures in place, it's still a good thing to kind of, cover yourself again. All right. Now, when should we not rely on Chat GPT? When should we not rely on Chat GPT? I mentioned this earlier. For any medical or healthcare. Again, you can use it to get some general information, try to find out, hey, what are the top 5 causes of a cough? But this should not replace your physician, right? Your doctors. Any legal issues. It can provide you with some general concepts, but you should probably, consider talking to a qualified professional. Don't take its word at face value. Any emotional support, healthcare concerns, you want to make sure to trust, again, a professional therapist, counselor. Critical business decisions. Listen, it can analyze information, it can provide you with recommendations, but at the end of the day, a seasoned professional with experience is going to be of much bigger value than what ChatGPT can suggest for you. Safety in emergency situations. Listen, call the authorities. Don't talk to AI, right? And then personal advice. Again, go to a human with expertise and then leverage that. So again, notice that in any one of these bullets, the central point around this is that AI is not a replacement for humans, right? We should not use AI in place of humans, especially in sensitive information, sensitive areas, all right? Okay, so those are the basics on ChatGPT and some of the concerns about how to safely use it in the workplace. Now we're going to jump into a little bit of a live demo. Let's talk about how to get started with ChatGPT. Well, how many of us already have an account? How many of us don't have an account? Okay, so real easy. You want to create an account? Go to chatgpt.com and hit the ground running. Now, let me pull it up here. So let me pull it up here in a private browser so it doesn't recognize my account. Now notice, if you go to chatgpt.com, now they allow you to use it without even signing in. You don't have to use an account. You can just start providing it prompts and it'll start talking with you. However, it is recommended that you do create an account for various reasons. One, when you create an account, it'll keep log of your conversation, so you can always go back in the conversations to see what you've discussed. And again, with all the memory, it can provide you with more relevant details. So once you go to chatgpt.com, if you want to sign up, you just go to sign up, and you provided all your details, just like any other service. Simple enough, right? Okay. So that's how easy it is to sign up. Now, when you sign up, now I'm not a salesperson for ChatGPT. I am not, associated with them. I'm just giving you the details so we can talk about the finer details here. But once you sign up, there are going to be different quote-unquote licenses, if you will. Okay. First of all, do you have to pay for it? No. You can, by all means, use the free version, okay? Now, there is the Plus, which is $20 a month, and then there's the Teams, which is $25 a month. Now, why is this important to understand? So first of all, if you use the free version, you are using ChatGPT 3.5, okay? That's the version that you get with the 3. Now, that is a strong general purpose model with good language capabilities, trained on internet data up to the year 2021. So here's the thing. You can use it for free, but the information that it has access to, the information that it's trained on, its limit is up to 2021. If you need more relevant, more updated information, then consider getting the Plus. It's $20 a month. Now, what do you get with the Plus? Well, with the Plus, you get ChatGPT 3.5, you get ChatGPT 4, and then 4.0. Now, 4.0 is the latest updated model. 4 is an enhanced model with better conceptual understanding, contextual understanding, and it handles more complex tasks and an updated knowledge base. Now, 4.0 essentially just takes it to the next level, and it says that it's optimized to focus on efficiency and maintaining a high performance with potentially reduced computational demands. So, now I will say this, if you notice, even the Plus says it has limits. So it does give you certain limits on how many prompts you can give it and how frequently. I think right now with the 4, it's like 40 prompts every 3 hours or something like that. With the 4.0, it takes it up to 80. So if you need to use it heavily and just go back and forth, you might want to reconsider about upgrading. But that's, again, I do recommend you start off with a free one, play with it, see what it can do, and then go from there. All right? All right, now how does it work? Let me pull up my actual account. So here's my actual account, and I have a plus. I have the $20 plan. You can see that I have a couple of conversations from the past year. You can see I have a basic chat window here. It gives you different tips and tricks or different things to try out, right? But let's try out our first prompt. We're gonna see this in real life here. All right? Let's say I want Chat GPT to explain the benefits of using Chat GPT in the AV industry. Now, I have my prompts pre-written, so you don't have to sit here and watch me type, because I can't type with a bunch of people watching me, right? So I'm just gonna copy and paste it. So you enter your prompt in there, something as simple as, hey, tell me what are the benefits of using you in the AV industry. Let's see what it does. Press enter. And notice immediately it starts providing a response, okay? Now, sometimes these responses can be quite lengthy. You could just scroll up and just start reading it, right? Start reviewing it. To get back to the bottom, you can always just click to the bottom. And when it's done, give it a second, it's still thinking there. And when it's done, you know it's done when it gives you these little tools across the bottom, okay? So notice it gave me 10 bullet points, some details about all the different benefits of how we can use ChatGPT in the audio-video industry. It's as simple as that, okay? Now, again, remember my prompt, right? Pretty simple, nothing very specific. I just asked it a quick question and it gave me a pretty good response. But let's talk about some best practices on writing efficient prompts. So first of all, to write efficient prompts, you should provide a context. For example, here's an example of one. I'm going to tell ChatGPT, you are an experienced content writer with a high level of expertise and authority within the tech industry. Okay. Now, provided the task. So for example, I'm now telling ChatGPT, your task is to write content that will be published online, on websites, social media, email newsletters, and advertisements. Your writing style is informative, friendly, engaging, while incorporating humor and real-life examples. Great. Then you can provide it more instructions. So for example, I'm gonna tell it, I will provide you the topics or series of topics, and you will produce an engaging article outline for these topics. And then, here's the cool thing, you can ask if it understands, ask it for clarity, or if it needs any clarity. So I'm also gonna ask it, do you understand? There are gonna be times where you give it a prompt and it's gonna come back with questions to clarify more details about what you want. So I like to just build that in. Now, there is one more step if needed, and I do recommend it. Refine the prompts, all right? So let's take a look at this example. I'm gonna actually take that exact prompt, right? That exact prompt that you see on the slide, and I'm gonna feed it to ChatGPT. Now, when I'm having different conversations, I like to start different chats. So I'm gonna go ahead and just click ChatGPT, give it a new chat window. I'm gonna paste that prompt, press enter, and it's gonna process it. And notice this is absolutely understand. Please go ahead, provide me with the topics or series of topics you'd like me to create an engaging article on. Okay, so I'm gonna provide it. Give me an outline for an exciting blog article about the top 5 ways on how AI can help AV professionals be more efficient. And off it goes. Now remember, right now I'm asking just for the outline. So it's gonna give me just some bullet points, some suggestions, some topics, right? So I asked for the top 5, and notice it's gonna give me the top 5. It gives me the explanation, the benefits, real life examples for each one of those. and then some humor. Now again, these are just the outlines. So it's like, okay, let's say I wanted to actually write that article for me. Well, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna tell it, write the article out for me. And it's gonna go through, it's gonna use that example. And now of course, I could have refined it. I could have said, hey, take the third topic, right? And write the article in a humorous or more serious manner, whatever you want. And it's just gonna go through and it's gonna write it out in a more real life example there. Now, that's the basics on how Chat GPT works, okay? But let's talk about how we can use it in the workplace or in the AV industry. Now, a couple of little things. So first of all, these tools across the bottom, there are a couple of great options. One, you can have it read it out loud for you. So if you want, I can just have it read it out loud. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Can you hear that all right? We can get volume if possible. If not, you'll have to trust me. But again, it can read out that prompt for me. And by the way, with the new 4.0, if you download the app on your phone, you can actually talk to it. You can talk to it, you don't have to type it out anymore, and it'll talk back to you. So again, it's building all of these integrations. And I don't know if it was Travis or somebody else mentioned it a couple days ago, with this read out loud and the talking capabilities, is building accessibility, right? For people with certain disabilities, it's building all of that into the system. Now, you can copy that information. So if I do want to take that article and rewrite it in Word or publish it in my website, I can just copy it and then just paste it wherever I go. If I don't like it, I can have it regenerated. If it's really not good, I can provide a feedback and tell it this is not a good response. So again, there's a couple of different options that we can do there with those responses. But let's talk about in the AV profession. How can we leverage it in the AV profession? Let's start off with having it respond to an RFP. So first of all, remember, ChatGPT does not have access to your content, but you can provide it access to the content. Now again, you want to keep in mind all those best practices that we already talked about, keeping confidential information private and not sharing information that shouldn't be. But let me show you this. I do have an RFP. I do have an RFP here that is in the public domain, so I don't feel any concerns about sharing it. Now this RFP, let me just pull it up here. Let me just, let's take a look here. So this RFP is for the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. They're looking to modernize the AV infrastructure design for 5 of their classroom and multi-purpose flexible use for some conference areas. And of course, you can see that it's got all that information. Now, yeah, I could go through this and write it out from scratch myself. Or, let me close this out. And let's go back to Chat GPT. And so here's the thing. If you want to provide it access to your content, you can upload the files. It'll help you create responses. And again, what's that keyword? Draft proposals. And then you can have it refine it as necessary. So let's take a look. Again, this is a separate topic. I'm going to start a new chat. And let me pull this up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have it uploaded or attach a file. And here is that proposal. So it's going to upload it, and while it's doing that, I'm going to provide it my prompt, and it's going to say, please respond to the attached RFP for me, saying that my company called Office Pro Inc. can provide all the requested services. Then I'm going to go ahead and submit it. What is this going to do is it's going to scan the document, it's going to read all of it, and it's going to do what I told it. And notice it's writing a nice little cover letter. It's going to go through all the bullet points and provide me, again, a draft, a running start. This is not the finish line. I'm not going to just copy this and then send it back, right? But it's giving me a good start to work with. Now, again, critical thinking, you want to review it and refine. Remember that last bullet point in effective prompts? Refine it as necessary. So let's say I reviewed its first draft and I like it, but I wanted to provide more details about specific sections. So I'm going to go ahead and type it in there. And notice I'm asking it, look, please provide the answers or recommended solutions for this section, this section, this section, and I'm providing it all the details. Then I just send it off, and it's going to rewrite it. It's going to rewrite it. So again, you can always have it refine those responses. Okay? Now, while it finishes that, let's also talk about how you can have it actually generate content. Now, what do I mean by content? So you can have it provide you the responses just like you see in text, but you can have it downloaded too. Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, Excel spreadsheets, text files, PDFs, all sorts of information. So let's take a look at how that works. So it looks like it just finished. So let's say I like it. I want to download it. So I'm going to tell it to me, all right, give me that proposal in a Word document. And it's going to take that, and it's going to provide me a link to where I can download that file. I can tell it, once it's finished, I can tell it, all right, now give me a PowerPoint presentation that I can use to go present my proposal to the stakeholders. Then I can say, hey, give me an Excel spreadsheet with a timeline and a project plan with suggested dates to deliver this project. And it's going to provide me all that detail, okay? It's going to provide me all that detail. Now it's thinking, so we'll give it a little time. And I know we're running a little out of time, so let's just keep on rolling here. Now, for AV, what are some of the ways that we can leverage it? So first of all, troubleshooting. Equipment recommendations. We can have it provide integration solutions. Programming support. We can have it help with documentation, client communication, and industry knowledge, right? So again, the possibilities are endless. Let me give you an example of that. Okay? Now, by the way, notice it just finished that last prompt. Notice here's the link. Click on it. It downloads it. Oh, wait a second. It's on my other screen here. There it goes. And notice it gave me all that information in a Word document. And again, just like that, you can have it give to you in a PowerPoint presentation, in a spreadsheet, and hit the ground running, okay? All right, now let's take a look at a quick example on integration solutions. Let's see here. And let's jump straight to this one here. So for more complex solutions, you want to be specific and clear, provide context, structured prompts like we discussed, analysis and critical thinking, you want to use that with the responses it provides, and then any constraints or requirements you want to be crystal clear on. All right, so let's do this last example and then we'll open up for Q&A. So let's say that a client is asking to integrate a conference room. So I'm going to ask it how to connect the Cisco WebEx endpoint through an MTR. And notice it provides me a solution, right? But as I'm reading through the solution, I'm noticing that it's kind of general, right? Now, why is it general? Because I gave it a very general prompt. So again, going back to our bullet points, be as specific as you can. So when it's finished, I'm going to provide it with some more details. Okay. So then I'm going to say, well, you know what? Give me a detailed instructions on how to connect the WebEx endpoint through, and notice I'm stating a very specific product here. So it's going to go through and it's going to rewrite that for me, and it's going to give me all the details, all the steps, and the guidelines on that specific product. Now, you know, sometimes it's not just a matter of plug and play, right? Sometimes you got to do a little configuration. And again, sometimes that takes a little coding, right? Now, remember how I said, look, I'm not a coder? Watch this, when it's finished with this. So let's say I'm liking the solution that it provided, but maybe I need a little bit more assistance. I'm going to tell it, now give me all the PowerShell codes that I'm going to need to implement the solution. Okay, give that a minute. And notice how it's going to actually go through and provide me each of the different modules, each of the different codes, step by step, and it kind of correlates that with the different steps of the solution that it provided. So again, and notice, just like any other website, I can copy the code there and go and implement it immediately. See that? Pretty neat, right? And there you go. So, again, the possibilities are endless. Possibilities are endless. All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to just take another minute or two and see if there are any questions. If there are any questions, just raise your hand and we'll throw the little microphone cube your way. Any questions on anything we discussed today?
Okay, this is sarcastic. You ask it what size screen should you put so that people in the back can see what you're typing?
What size screen should we use?
For a sarcastic question. What? Maybe you know.
What size screen should we use
To be seen 50 feet away.
for this solution? I know, that's not what you asked. But again, notice.
I can't read a word that you're.
But notice again, you can keep on asking it for more details. All right? All right, any other questions? You can tell it to cite its sources, and with the new 4.0, when it does cite sources, it'll put a little link at the bottom. Or you can ask it to.